The minimalists want to help you avoid impulse purchases. That's why we created 5 questions to ask before buying, which is now a wallpaper for your smartphone. Now you'll always have a reminder when you're getting ready to purchase something new. Head on over to theminimalists.com/before to download your free wallpaper today.
The Minimalists.
What are the unexpected upsides and downsides of communal living for Chris?
Yeah, so upsides, I definitely noticed that, some of the usual coping mechanisms completely lose their appeal. So social media being one. Why is it that people just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling? Is it that they're trying to find the others? Is that the itch that they're trying to scratch?
I'm looking for big butts usually.
I think it's that longing to belong. You're trying to find a friend.
Yes.
That completely loses its appeal when there are actual friends there, all the time.
Yeah.
For me, it's that's definitely one. I mean, so the word unexpected is kind of the caveat here. There was a lot of things I expected, but unexpected, I guess that's sort of a relative thing. It might be, unexpected to me, but not unexpected to somebody else.
What would be unexpected for a lot of people to hear about your current living situation?
The boundaries thing that you mentioned earlier, I've been really surprised how hard it is to enforce those in real life. So
what?
So the blue light thing is a really good example, actually. So for maybe people don't know that are listening, that blue light suppresses the production of a hormone called melatonin, and melatonin is like the starting gun for sleep. You can think of it like that.
So blue light comes from any of our screens, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So normally during the day it comes from the sun.
Right.
And then the sun goes down, and then melatonin goes up, and then you go to sleep. But you can interfere with that with the electric lighting on your ceiling or with screens or whatever. And of course, a decision I make with the light switch is kind of a decision I make for everyone, right? It's not necessarily mine and only my decision to make. But, maybe someone else that you're living with doesn't know that, and I'm really sensitive about preaching ancestral health or anything else. I really don't want to say anything unless I absolutely have to, or somebody asks. We work with a psychologist, and he said to me once that the difference between a guest and a pest is an invitation, right? If someone invites you, then you can talk about this stuff. But maybe it is a boundary. Sleep seems to me to be a keystone behavior for everything else. If you're not sleeping well, nothing else goes well, right? Not diet choices, not movement, not nothing else. So it's seems like a really hard and fast thing I should have as a boundary, but it's really hard to say to someone, you know what, keep that light switch turned off. That has been a really surprising thing to me, how hard it is to enforce that boundary. And I think it is mine to enforce. I think a boundary is a bit like a no trespassing sign. When you're trying to keep people off of your property, it's your responsibility to put up those no trespassing signs, and it's really your responsibility to try and keep people out. You can't expect people to know where the boundary is without you putting up a sign. So it's really on you to enforce those boundaries, and it's hard.
Yeah. Anything else unexpected?
I think the other one was really what my yoga teacher neighbor said about love. And, Alison Gopnik wrote in The Philosopher Babies, another really good book, that we love the children that we care for, was the first thing she said. And what she meant by that is you don't love this one but not that one because you share DNA with them. You love them because you spent a lot of time looking after them. That's all there is to it, So if you spend a lot of time looking after somebody else's kid, you'll love that kid too.
Yeah.
And then conversely, those kids that they love you in return, right? So they just love the people who look after them.
Yes.
Now the unexpected.
But there is also a biological component to that as well.
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Especially with the mother.
Yeah, absolutely.
But do you find with your own kids versus other kids that are on your land, obviously you love your kids more. That word love is, I actually don't think you love them more, but you prefer them more, right, is maybe the better word. I think love is sort of ubiquitous, and most people don't even know what it means. And so we use the word love to mean like or preference or
Okay.
whatever. But when you do have a deeper desire for the well-being of your children you prioritize that over the well-being of other children's, probably subconsciously and consciously.
Yeah, so I think that's just a function of having spent more time caring for them. That's what I would argue.
Yeah, but so you're saying if you lived in this situation right when they were first born and all these other kids were born at the same time, or 10 other kids were born at roughly the same time, and you had some sort of similar role and all of their upbringing, you would not prioritize the biological preference?
Exactly.
You don't think you would?
No, absolutely
Wow.
not. Well, think about it. So go back to the hunter-gatherer model. They don't know which kids... I mean, they barely know that sex causes babies, right?
Yes.
They don't know. Like, the idea of paternal certainty is very, very new. It's only once we had genetic testing could you even find out who the father was.
Yeah. Right.
And still to this day, they do these large studies, like the sort of Who's Your Daddy study, you know, where they take a bunch of people living in an apartment complex, and they just do DNA testing and then see, is the person you think is your father actually your father?
Right.
And no, about 20 to 30% of the time.
Wow.
And so, you don't even, what difference does it make? Like, paternal certainty has probably done a lot of damage to children, if anything.
I agree with that. What difference does it make? In our society, we've been told, this idea has been propagated, that you, especially as a man, and I think it's absurd, as a man, you want to spread your seed and carry on your lineage and all the... How dumb is it? I mean, it's so silly because like as soon as I'm dead, none of it's going to matter to me. Why do I care about continuing the bloodline? What does that even mean? They have my same DNA. I can't even explain DNA to you. Why would I even why am I so obsessed with this, right? Yeah. And I think it's much more culture than it is biology. The obsession of my child takes priority over the other children in the community. And it seems to be that you're saying, it's almost completely societal.
Yeah, I mean, just look at, I have a 3-year-old boy, and he's got blonde hair and chocolate brown eyes, and he's completely adorable. But so is every white Caucasian baby, looks exactly the same. Like my wife almost jokes that you could come home with the wrong one. Like they all look the same to me. And
to be clear, our British guest here is not saying that white Caucasian babies are the cute babies.
Just to clarify.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they're all adorable. They make them adorable for a reason, right? But what I'm saying is, like, I'm not sure I'd be able to tell which one was mine. Yeah. Unless I had a DNA test, they all look the same to me.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so, that's fascinating. I mean, but there are some times where you see someone, they're the spitting image, especially as they start to reach pubescence or they're post-pubescent. They really start to look like their parents. But even kids quite often can look a lot like their parent, like one parent or the other. Yeah, I mean, and so I don't know. It seems to me that there probably is some sort of biological imperative. Maybe it's mostly maternal, but it seems that
you can't. Yeah, exactly. You almost know who the mum is. Like that's pretty obvious, right? But I mean, another thing I find fascinating in hunter-gatherer bands is this idea of pardable paternity, and this is the idea that in order to make a baby, you need the semen from more than one man.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is like popped up independently in different populations without them having contact with each other. They believe in order to make a baby, you have to have sex with more than one man, and in order to inherit the attributes of that man, you have to have sex with him, right? And so, if you want this guy because he's tall, and this guy because he's good at whatever it is, like it's so they don't even think they think that you need more than one man to make a baby. Like that's so our modern understanding of genetics has really changed everything.
Yeah. Right. And so like what I find fascinating about that is that's not factually true, obviously.
Yeah.
In fact, you can have sex with 10 men. The baby's not going to get the characteristics of 9 of them. But there's a deeper truth there about, well, if those 10 men are all playing some role in their upbringing, then they are, by nurture, going to get a lot of those attributes, that those men exhibit, right?
Completely agree.
Yeah.
So the unexpected thing, I was going to finish that thought, was that so you love the children that you care for, and the children that you care for love you. But the other really important thing, I think, is that you end up loving the people who care for your children. And so if you spend a lot of time with someone and they're looking after your children, I think there's a really good chance that you'll fall in love with them too. And this again is from Gopnik. And You know, that
Why is that, do you think?
so it allows childhood to take place. So that bond between you allows the child a carefree existence so they can play and learn how to be a human.
Yeah.
There's an evolutionary advantage. I mean, that's always the answer, right? It's like, you know, humans that did this were slightly more successful at reproducing than humans that did not, and that's why it exists. Like, there's no better explanation than that. That's the answer. But it's like an unexpected gotcha, I think. If you're spending a lot of time living with people who are caring for your children, I think there's a really good chance you'll fall in love with them.
Wow.